Hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here outside the CH Best School in Toronto. And behind us, the Rebel News truck with a petition for nohate.com. What am I talking about? I'm not talking about the made-up hate crimes that the left always accuses the right of. I'm talking about actual hate in a classroom of a kid named Eitan Cohen. She's just 13 years old, but he was bullied every day he came to school with Hitler memes, with Hamas propaganda on the walls, with people bullying him, taunting him for being Jewish, giving him the Sieg Heil Hitler salute. And when he complained, he was told, well, Hamas may mean something negative to you, but it means positive things for others. I should tell you, CH Best is in the middle of a pretty Jewish neighborhood. There's Jewish schools and synagogues all around. If it's happening here in a fairly Jewish neighborhood, imagine the kind of things that are taught in schools in more neighborhoods with more people who come from anti-Semitic countries where there are large Muslim populations. Not that all Muslims are anti-Semitic, thank goodness, but that it would be so much more prevalent. Behind us on the truck, we're playing a video of this student, Eitan Cohen, where he was reading out a testimony of what happened to him in the school. He was effectively driven out, and this was ignored for months by teachers.
I am proudly Jewish. My entire ancestry descends from Eastern Europe, where my family had to flee because they were Jewish. They came here for a better life, and within each generation since, we have had to deal with anti-Semitism. Last year, I traveled to Lithuania with my grandparents, parents, and siblings to visit the village where my grandmother's family came from that had been a thriving Jewish community. It was heartbreaking to stand next to the mass grave of Jews who had been brutally murdered during the Holocaust.
Finally, a group of parents came and walked with him to the school, but the authorities said nothing and did nothing. Here's my point. There is an anti-Semitic crime wave in Canada. What happened to this kid, I don't know if it would rise to the level of a crime, but it certainly violates policies in schools of being neutral, of anti-bullying. Oh, you can't hear enough about microaggressions and triggering. They literally Sieg Heiled this kid. He said they threw money at him and taunted him for being a Jew. And this was just acceptable banter in the schools.
During my 5 years at CH Best, I have been targeted and marginalized by anti-Semitism. Here is a short and incomplete list of some of my experiences. On multiple occasions, people have thrown money at me and said, "Go get it, Jew." I have had other students give me the Hitler salute. I've been sent Holocaust-denying memes on Snapchat. I was told, "You should have been gassed with your ancestors, Jew, and free Palestine, kill Israel."
And this is happening in a Jewish neighborhood. Imagine what it's like elsewhere. But of course it's this way, because so many of our institutions have decided not to uphold Canadian values and have thrown all in with the bizarre coalition of hard left-wingers and Islamists. Look at Fred Hahn, the head of CUPE, that's the Canadian Union of Public Employees. He wears a keffiyeh, he makes repeated anti-Semitic posts online, and he's treated as a hero in the movement. Teachers' unions are amongst the worst, but here in Ontario, they're especially bad. Teachers go through something called OISE, Ontario Institute for Studies and Education. It's basically where the teachers learn how to teach. They're not learning math, folks. They're not learning spelling. Those are both racist. They're learning to be woke. And in 2024, to be woke means to be for Hamas, to call 13-year-old Jewish kids oppressors.
There are 2 staff members at my school who since October 7th have worn keffiyehs. They have also worn hateful shirts that have the map of Israel with a watermelon, also known as the Palestinian flag colors, superimposed on them. They had artwork on their doors in red, green, and black with pro-Hamas propaganda on them. I thought that schools were supposed to be politically neutral and safe for everyone. Another staff member at school told me that while Hamas represents something negative for me, other students could see Hamas as liberators and freedom fighters. I remind you all that Hamas has been listed here in Canada as a terrorist organization since 2002.
I think it's important that we show that the world does not accept this. We parked the truck here this morning as the students and the parents came in for the first day of school, and we played this video. And we're going to be on the lookout for things, and we're going to speak out against things, because unfortunately in this country there's been a lack of moral leadership. Yes, we need the police to lay charges and prosecute crimes. Yes, we need the media to be even-handed. But more than anything, we need people to lead by example. Justin Trudeau has done the opposite. He has grudgingly said, when there's been shocking anti-Semitic crimes, he's grudgingly said, "That's not my Canada."
I've heard from too many members of the Jewish community particularly who are seeing their synagogues, their community centers, their neighborhoods protested, who feel unsafe in their own country. I know Canadians have very strong feelings about this conflict, and rightly so. There are horrible things that we are seeing. But it is not who we are to take it out on our fellow Canadians.
But then he blames Israel, and he effectively blames Jews everywhere for what's happening in Gaza, even though it was the terrorist attack by Hamas on October 7th that started the whole thing. He sends tens of millions of dollars to Hamas front group called UNRWA, UN Refugee Works Agency. I think that from the top down in Canada, political leaders and even institutional leaders like principals and school superintendents are afraid of speaking out against this anti-Semitism for one reason and one reason only: demographics. In the last 10 or 15 years, Canada has had a policy of mass immigration, where we're literally taking millions of people. This year, Canada's on track to take 2 million people. Many of them are coming from countries that are endemically anti-Semitic. Politicians can count. They know there's around 400,000 Jews in Canada, and there's around 2 million Muslims. Thankfully, not all of them are anti-Semitic, but the politicians know it's best just to stay quiet in the face of anti-Semitism. Well, we're not, and that's why we came this morning to CH Best School. For Rebel News, I'm Ezra Levant.
I've had nightmares of specific students and teachers trying to break into my home and kidnap me. We have spent so much valuable time in school studying many different forms of racism. I personally have benefited so much from this education. I have patiently waited to see how anti-Semitism would be approached, and yet there has been no time devoted to it. Ultimately, I do not feel part of the school community as a student or as a Jew.
I'm outside the CH Best School, where a 13-year-old Jewish kid was driven out by Nazi salutes and bullying because he's Jewish, and the school abides pro-Hamas propaganda. If you're opposed to this and love our billboard truck that we parked outside the school, go to nohate.com to sign our petition to fight for this kid.